Welcome to the deep dive. It feels good to have you here, settling in with us. In this space, we tackle the real, sometimes unspoken challenges of life. And today, we're diving into something deeply personal, something we all deal with, our relationship with money. This isn't about, the latest hot stock tip or anything like that. It's about understanding ourselves, how our minds really work when it comes to our finances. We're here to unpack those anxieties, those nagging doubts, maybe those moments of just, well, pure financial chaos we sometimes find ourselves in. Today, we're going deep into the second brain for your finances, how to build a system that remembers everything behavioral finance. It sounds like a big topic, and it is, but it's one that honestly promises to change not just maybe your bank balance, but your actual peace of mind. So let's unpack this whole thing, that feeling, the anxiety about a bill you might have forgotten, or maybe that little pang of guilt after an impulse buy, or just that overwhelming sense that you'll never quite get a handle on your money stuff. That feeling, it isn't weakness. It's definitely not some kind of moral failing on your part.
What's the symptom?
Yeah, a symptom of a deeper issue. We're relying on just one system, our own brain, to remember everything. And think about it for a second. Our brains are amazing, right? For ideas, creativity, intuition. But they're just not designed for the sheer complexity of modern digital finance. We're juggling, what? A dozen different online accounts, each with its own password, its own statement cycle. Then there's rent, utilities, credit cards, maybe student loans, subscriptions, all hitting at different times. We're essentially trying to use a brain that evolved for, trading tangible things like crops or tools. Jack Cago managed this abstract world of digital numbers, interest rates, future projections. It's no wonder we feel completely overwhelmed sometimes.
You've hit on something really profound there. It's absolutely not a moral failing to struggle with keeping finances organized. Not at all. It's actually a perfectly normal human response. We're dealing with an incredibly complex, cognitively demanding system. Our world is complicated now. Our brains, brilliant as they are, just weren't designed to be perfect digital ledgers in this age. That wasn't their primary function. But the good news, the really good news, is that the solution isn't to just somehow try harder or be more disciplined to remember every single detail. That's exhausting. Instead, it's about strategically offloading that burden. It's about building what we call a second brain for your finances. This external system, something reliable and outside your head, steps in. It protects you from forgetting things, from that mental fatigue.
Vision fatigue, yeah.
Exactly, decision fatigue. And from that feeling of just being buried under complexity, it's genuinely about liberation, freeing yourself from financial chaos so you can actually put your mental energy towards what really matters in your life.
That makes so much sense. It's like we expect our brains to be these perfect filing cabinets, but that's just not their strength, is it? We rely on them for incredible things, problem solving, creativity, but perfect, detailed financial record keeping. Maybe not their top skill. We're still sort of acting like we can carry the whole ledger in our heads, mental notes, sticky pads on the monitor, or just kind of hoping we'll remember later. It's not as inefficient. It feels draining.
It is draining, and this gets right to the heart of cognitive load. Think of your brain's processing power like a computer's RAM. Right?
Yeah.
Every decision, every piece of info you need to recall, every choice.
Like what socks to wear even.
Yeah, even the small stuff, it all takes up a slice of that mental bandwidth. And modern life, especially with the constant flood of financial data, multiple accounts, shifting bill dates, investment alerts, it just maxes out that mental RAM incredibly quickly. This chronic overload leads directly to what psychologists call decision fatigue. Basically, the more financial choices you face, especially the complicated ones, the worse you get at making them over the course of a day. Your brain gets tired.
Like needing a nap after doing your taxes.
Pretty much. It just defaults to the easiest path, which often isn't the best long-term path.
So if our mental RAM is full and we're dragging ourselves through this decision fatigue, what does that actually look like day to day? How does it show up in our financial behavior?
Oh, it shows up in very recognizable ways. Decision fatigue often triggers what researchers call the what the heck effect. You've probably felt it. It's the end of a long, stressful day. Your willpower feels completely drained. Instead of carefully considering your budget, you suddenly make that impulse purchase online you know you don't need.
Or order the expensive takeaway instead of cooking.
Exactly. Or you see the notification to transfer money to savings and you just hit skip because your brain is too worn out to process the long-term benefit versus the tiny effort right now. It's not really a lack of willpower in that specific moment. It's more like a depleted cognitive battery. Your brain just gives up on the hard work of financial discipline and goes for the easy win, the instant gratification. Hashtag understanding our innate biases in financial decisions.
Okay, so it's not just about being overloaded. Our brains also have these, well, built-in glitches maybe, tendencies, biases that systematically nudge us towards less than rational money choices. And this is where that fascinating field you mentioned, behavioral finance, comes in. It sort of connects the dots between psychology and our bank accounts, right? It
Right.
helps explain why we all make these systematic errors, challenging that old economics idea that we're always perfectly logical money machines.
That's a perfect way to frame it. Behavioral finance. Yeah, it's been my world for over 10 years now. And it really unveils these unconscious tendencies we all carry. They deeply affect how we manage our money. Let's maybe walk through a few of the really big ones, the heavy hitters, and see how they play out in real life. First up, and it's a giant, is loss aversion. Basically, the psychological pain of losing something feels roughly twice as powerful as the pleasure of gaining something of the exact same value.
So losing 20 pounds hurts twice as much as finding 20 pounds feels good.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the general finding. And this makes us much more willing to take bigger risks just to avoid a loss compared to the risks we'd take to achieve an equivalent gain. Think about investors, for example. Maybe someone got burned in a market crash. They become so terrified of losing money again that they pull everything out, stick it in a savings account, earning almost nothing. They avoid any potential loss, even tiny ones, but they also miss out on potentially huge long-term growth. The fear dominates. So the key insight here for you, for anyone listening, is recognizing you're wired to hate losses, even small ones. And sometimes that fear makes you play it too safe, missing out on better, steadier gains over time. Your financial second brain can act as that cool, objective voice here. It helps you look at the data, the long-term picture, not just react based on that immediate fear.
I definitely recognize that feeling. It's like clinging on to that old phone I never use because selling it for pennies feels like losing the money I originally spent. It's totally irrational, but the feeling is real.
Exactly. It feels incredibly real. And that brings us nicely to the next one, mental accounting. This is our funny habit of creating separate mental buckets for our money. We treat money differently depending on where it came from or what we've mentally earmarked it for, even though logically all money is the same.
Right, like having a super strict budget for weekly groceries.
Yeah, counting every penny, maybe saying no fancy cheese this week.
But then going out for dinner and dropping 50 quid on a meal without blinking because that's the eating out bucket.
Precisely. The money is interchangeable, but our brain applies different rules based on these mental categories. Investors might do this too, like treating a work bonus as fun money to splurge, while being incredibly careful with their regular salary.
Yeah.
The takeaway for you is simple. All your money is your money. It all has the same potential. Your financial second brain helps break down these artificial mental walls. It gives you that holistic view, showing you the total picture, so every pound can actually work towards your real priorities, not just the label you've mentally stuck on it. Then we've got overconfidence bias. This one's pretty straightforward. It's being overly optimistic or certain about our own abilities, often flying in the face of objective evidence. Research consistently shows some interesting patterns here. For instance, studies suggest men sometimes tend to be more overconfident than women in financial matters.
Really, how does that play out?
Well, it often leads to trading more frequently in their investment accounts. They believe they have superior skill in picking stocks or timing the market. But ironically, on average, that higher trading frequency usually results in worse financial performance. Increased transaction costs, maybe bad timing. Their belief works against them. The personal lesson here is pretty clear. A dose of humility is actually a massive asset in finance. Your financial second brain, with its cold, hard records of your actual performance and decisions, provides that crucial reality check. It helps you base decisions on evidence, not just unchecked optimism.
Wow. That's a sobering thought. It really shows how easily we can fool ourselves into thinking we're smarter than we are, especially when money's involved.
It's surprisingly easy. Next up is herding behavior. This is a very, very human tendency. We tend to mimic what the larger group is doing, especially when things feel uncertain or there's a strong social buzz. You see it dramatically in market bubbles and crashes, obviously, but also in everyday things, like buying the latest gadget just because everyone seems to have one.
Keeping up with the Joneses, basically.
It's exactly. In finance, if all your friends or colleagues are suddenly raving about a particular hot stock or maybe a cryptocurrency, there's a powerful pull to jump into. You feel safety in numbers. Even if it means ignoring your own research or your long-term plan, you just follow the herd. We saw this globally in 2016. Increased market volatility heavily influenced the types of funds people piled into, largely driven by crowd behavior. The practical takeaway: Don't let the crowd be your financial advisor. Your second brain helps encourage independent thought. It lets you calmly review your own goals and data, shielding you from the emotional noise and impulses of the herd. Then there's anchoring bias. This happens when we latch onto the very first piece of information we encounter about something, letting it serve as a mental anchor that heavily influences all subsequent judgments and decisions, even if that first piece of info was arbitrary or wrong.
Like the first price you see for something.
Exactly. Or, see, a financial advisor initially suggests a stock is worth £100. Later, new data comes out suggesting it's really only worth £70. Because you're anchored to that initial £100 figure, you might resist selling, holding out hope it'll get back there, even when all the current evidence says it's overvalued. Big market indices like the FTSE 100 or Dow Jones, or even just casual advice from neighbors or coworkers, can act as powerful anchors that are really hard to shake off. So for you, the lesson is always question that first number or opinion you hear. Your second brain helps by storing a range of objective data points. It allows you to compare information against multiple references, not just the first one that got stuck in your head. Following that closely is the framing effect. This means our decisions are hugely swayed by how choices are presented or framed, even if the underlying facts are identical.
Can you give an example?
Sure. A financial product framed as having a 95% success rate sounds way more appealing than one framed as having a 5% failure rate, right?
Yeah.
Even though they're saying the exact same thing.
Yeah, definitely. One sounds positive, the other negative.
Or think about budgeting. If you frame cutting expenses as depriving yourself, it feels bad. But if you frame it as freeing up funds for your dream holiday, it feels empowering. Same action, different frame. A classic historical example. Back in the 1970s, many argued the U.S. stock market was undervalued, partly because investors focused heavily on the nominal interest expenses they saw clearly on company income statements. They tended to ignore the less obvious but very real benefit to shareholders from inflation reducing the real value of the company's debts. The way the information was framed in standard accounting obscured part of the picture. The personal lesson: be super aware of how financial information is presented to you and maybe even how you frame things to yourself. Your second brain acts as a neutral zone. It helps strip away the persuasive framing, letting you see the raw data and make choices based on substance, not just presentation.
That's fascinating. Just the wording can completely change our perception.
It's incredibly potent, and it often connects to another one: home bias. This is our preference for investing in things we know, things close to home, like companies in our own country, or even our own employer's stock. Even when diversification principles suggest we should look further afield, we see this often, maybe with car industry workers in Detroit heavily invested in auto stocks, or tech engineers in Silicon Valley putting too much in their company shares.
But that's risky, isn't it? If the company or industry struggles.
Hugely risky. Their job, their income, maybe even their house value, are already tied to that same company or industry's fortunes. Overinvesting there concentrates risk dramatically. They stick with the familiar, even when it's not financially optimal. So for you, this means consciously making an effort to seek out diverse investments and information. Don't just gravitate towards what's nearby or what you hear about locally. Your second brain can store information about global markets, different asset classes, helping you push beyond your comfort zone towards truly robust, diversified financial planning. And finally, let's touch on the disposition effect. This describes our tendency to sell our winning investments too early, but hold on to our losing investments for too long.
Why do we do that? It seems backwards.
It does. We love locking in a gain, even a small one. It feels good, like confirmation we made a smart choice. So we sell the winner, perhaps prematurely, just to bank that win. But when investment is losing money, we tend to cling on to it desperately. We hope it'll bounce back so we don't have to face the pain of realizing the loss by selling. You can even see this in overall market behavior. Stock trading volume tends to go up in bull markets. People are happily selling winners. But it often plummets in bear markets. People are grimly holding on to losers. A stark example was the Japanese stock market. From the late 80s bubble peak into the mid-90s downturn, trading volume fell by over 80% as the market sank. Investors just froze, unwilling to sell losers. So, the takeaway for you is critical. Set clear, objective rules for buying and selling before you invest, based on your strategy, not your emotions in the moment. Your second brain is the perfect place to store these rules and track your performance objectively. It helps you override that emotional disposition effect and make disciplined, rational decisions.
Okay, so we've explored these Very human, often irrational tendencies that mess with our money decisions. But for ages, traditional economics just assumed we were all perfectly rational calculators. How did the financial world actually start to wake up to these powerful psychological forces? When did behavioral finance become, a thing?
That's a great question because it really represents a major paradigm shift in economic thinking. Behavioral finance didn't just sort of pop up overnight. It grew out of this fascinating mix of cognitive psychology, decision science, experimental economics, even game theory. Pioneers like Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky, who were psychologists, interestingly not economists initially, and later the economist Richard Thaler, they really drove this revolution in understanding. See, the traditional efficient market hypothesis, the idea that asset prices always perfectly reflect all available information, it really struggled to explain some pretty major real-world events.
Like market crashes.
It's exactly. Major market shocks like the huge Japanese stock and property bubble in the 1980s, the sudden crash in October 1987, or the dot-com or TMT technology media telecom bubble bursting around 1999-2000. These events show clear evidence of what economists reluctantly started calling enormous misvaluations and, well, irrational behavior on a massive scale. Think about the dot-com bubble. Companies with basically no revenue, sometimes no product, were getting billion-dollar valuations. Then boom, it collapsed by 80% or more. Traditional models just couldn't fully explain that kind of collective mania and subsequent crash. And this is where Kahneman and Tversky's prospect theory, which they published back in 1979, became absolutely foundational. It fundamentally explains that we value gains and losses differently. We're way more sensitive to losses than to equivalent gains, that loss aversion we talked about. And it also showed we tend to be risk-averse when considering potential gains. We prefer a sure smaller gain over a risky larger one. But paradoxically, we become risk-seeking when facing potential losses. We'd rather gamble to avoid a sure loss.
So we'll take more risk to avoid losing than we will to try and win.
Often, yes. Essentially, how the choice is framed as a potential gain versus a potential loss drastically changes our risk appetite, even if the objective outcomes are identical. It's a powerful insight into how our perception of risk isn't fixed. It's relative to our starting point. #tag System 1 versus System 2 thinking for financial decisions.
So, okay, our brains have these biases, markets aren't always rational. How on earth do we make better financial decisions then? This often brings up that whole idea of trusting your gut. Lots of people say that, right? Trust your intuition. But you seem to be suggesting it's more complicated than that. We need to be smarter about when to trust our intuition. This involves understanding System 1 versus System 2 thinking.
Absolutely. This is a crucial distinction, again, from Kahneman's work that's really reshaped how we think about making choices. System 1 thinking is your fast, intuitive, emotional, almost automatic response. It's that gut feeling. It operates quickly, effortlessly, often unconsciously. System 2 is the slower, more deliberate, logical, effortful thinking process. It's what you use when you're consciously working through a complex problem, like a math equation, or focusing hard to learn something new. It requires attention and concentration. Now, the interesting thing is when each system tends to be more reliable. Psychological research suggests our System 1, our intuition, is actually pretty accurate in environments where we have tons of experience and get dependable, fast feedback.
Like learning to ride a bike.
Or think about an experienced firefighter entering a burning building. Their gut feeling about where the danger lies is often remarkably accurate. Not magic, it's pattern recognition built from thousands of hours of experience with immediate, clear consequences feedback. Same with social interactions. We often intuitively read someone's mood quite accurately because we've had a lifetime of practice observing microexpressions, tone of voice, body language, and getting instant feedback on whether we read them right.
Okay, that makes sense for things we do all the time and see the results quickly. But finance often feels different. Decisions are abstract, consequences delayed.
Exactly. And that's where System 2 generally performs much, much better. System 2 is crucial for choices where we don't have that rich database of direct, fast feedback experiences, especially decisions involving numbers, statistics, abstract concepts, complex financial models, things our hunter-gatherer ancestors never had to deal with. So while your System 1 might give you a quick feeling about an investment, maybe excitement or fear, it's your System 2 that's needed to actually analyze the company's financials, understand the economic climate, or evaluate the long-term implications of a retirement plan. The key isn't to completely ignore your intuition. Acknowledge that gut feeling. But then, crucially, feed it into your deliberate System 2 analysis. Use your second brain here. Capture that initial hunch, but then methodically run it through your organized system. Use objective data to either validate or challenge that first impulse. #, the dynamic nature of investor memory.
Beyond just how we think, we also need to understand how our memory works with finance, because it's not like a perfect video recording or a computer hard drive. It's surprisingly dynamic. Investor memory is actively shaped by current market conditions. Subjective recall often trumps objective facts.
What do you mean by that?
Well, when stock prices are going up, when the market feels bullish, investors are statistically much more likely to recall past bullish periods, especially recent positive experiences. It's not necessarily conscious bias. It's just how memory retrieval works. Current mood influences recall. So strong recent market performance often leads to positively skewed memories of your own past investment returns. You might remember your portfolio doing better than it actually did, conveniently forgetting the dips or losses from that period.
So we basically edit our own financial history based on today's market mood.
In a way, yes. This selective recall distorts our beliefs about future returns. We extrapolate the recent good times, and this actually fuels market volatility. It helps create those boom and bust cycles. People get overly optimistic based on rosy memories, then panic when reality differs.
Wow, that's slightly terrifying. If our own memories are unreliable, what does that mean for, say, market stability or regulation?
It has huge implications. From a policy standpoint, if regulators wanted to help stabilize markets, one approach could be to proactively and regularly remind investors of objective, long-term historical data, the actual ups and downs. Counteracting these inherent memory biases could potentially help align investors' expectations more closely with market fundamentals, maybe dampening some of that speculative excess driven by biased recall. But for you, the personal application is profound. Do not trust your memory alone when it comes to your financial history. Your financial second brain, by meticulously capturing and organizing objective data, actual statements, real returns, documented spending, becomes your impartial historian. It reminds you of what really happened, the good and the bad, helping you make rational decisions even when your emotions and biased memory are trying to paint a selectively rosy or gloomy picture.
Okay, this is fascinating. If these behavioral biases lead to clear situations where assets are mispriced, some stocks obviously too high, others too low, why don't the smart, rational professionals, the arbitrageurs, just swoop in and fix it immediately? It seems like there'd be easy money just lying there if things get so obviously out of whack.
That's a really sharp and logical question. And it leads us to another critical concept in behavioral finance, the limits to arbitrage. While, yes, mispricings do happen frequently because of these biases, it's often not as easy or risk-free to profit from them as classical theory might suggest. There are several powerful forces that limit the effectiveness of arbitrage. First, short sales constraints. Betting against an overvalued stock, short selling, involves borrowing the stock to sell it, hoping to buy it back cheaper later. This can be difficult, expensive, or sometimes even impossible for certain stocks. Second, there's no guarantee of timely correction. Just because something is mispriced doesn't mean the market will correct it quickly. A mispricing can persist for weeks, months, even years. Arbitrage requires patience and capital. And third, perhaps the most dangerous limit, there's the very real risk that the mispricing gets worse before it gets better. An overvalued stock can become even more overvalued before it crashes.
So you could be right in the long run, but still go broke waiting.
Precisely. This can wipe out even well-funded arbitrageurs who are fundamentally right about the misvaluation but run out of capital or lose their nerve before the market comes to its senses. This risk is especially high in large, complex markets or during periods of extreme investor sentiment, like a speculative bubble.
Can you give us a concrete example of this happening, where even the pros got caught?
Oh, absolutely. The classic cautionary tale is the hedge fund long-term capital management, or LTCM, back in 1998. These were Nobel laureates, brilliant minds. One of their famous losing trades involved an arbitrage between Royal Dutch Petroleum and Shell Transport shares. Way back in 1907, these companies had merged their interest on a fixed 60-40 basis and agreed to pay dividends accordingly. So financial theory says their stock prices should maintain that 60-40 ratio pretty closely. Makes sense, right?
Yeah, seems logical.
But incredibly, for over 2 decades, from 1980 to 2001, there were huge, persistent deviations from this theoretical ratio. In 1998, LTCM saw this clear mispricing. They did the logical thing.
Right.
They shorted the relatively expensive stock and bought the relatively cheap one, betting they'd converge back to the 60-40 ratio, a textbook arbitrage trade.
So what happened?
Instead of converging, the prices diverged even further. The mispricing got worse. LTCM was fundamentally right that the prices should converge eventually, but they were disastrously wrong about when. The widening gap caused massive losses for LTCM. They and other funds doing similar trades were forced to liquidate their positions to meet margin calls, which ironically pushed the prices even further apart, worsening the inefficiency they were trying to exploit. They were wiped out before the market eventually, corrected years later. So if we connect this to the bigger picture for us, for the everyday investor, what this shows is that the forces of arbitrage work reasonably well for small, frequent, easily corrected mispricings, high-frequency stuff. But they work very poorly for these big, infrequent, potentially long-lasting misvaluations driven by widespread behavioral biases. These large, irrational market moves demonstrate that markets can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent, as the saying goes. For us, the crucial takeaway is, don't try to be the hero who outsmarts an irrational market. Don't bet your savings on correcting apparent mispricings. Relying on a solid personal financial system, your second brain is far more reliable for long-term success. It helps you stay focused on your own plan, your own goals, insulated from the unpredictable madness of crowds.
Wow, that LTCM story is definitely a sobering lesson. It really drives home why we can't just assume markets or even our own brilliant brains will always be rational. So where does that leave us? The average person just trying to navigate this financial maze, how do we actually take control and stop feeling like our brains are these leaky buckets constantly running on fumes? The answer, as we've been building towards, seems to lie in constructing the second brain for our finances. It's not about needing to become some kind of financial super genius overnight. It's more about acknowledging our human limitations and building a system that works with us, not against us.
Absolutely, that's the core idea. Think of a financial second brain as your dedicated, external, centralized, probably digital hub for all things related to your money. All your financial information, your insights, your plans, your decisions, it's really an extension of your own mind. A trusted partner system that shields you from forgetfulness, yes, but also actively amplifies your efforts. It helps you think better about money. And its ultimate goal is truly profound. It's liberation. Liberation from that constant low-grade financial anxiety and chaos. Freeing up your precious mental energy so you can focus it on what genuinely brings you joy and fulfillment. It provides a clear, actionable pathway to managing your money with clarity, with consistency, and ultimately with a sense of calm and control. Just imagine feeling completely confident that no bill has slipped through the cracks, that all your important financial documents are exactly where they need to be, easily findable, and that your financial goals are actually being steadily worked towards. That's the power we're talking about. #tag the core principles for financial knowledge management.
Okay, I'm sold on the why. But how do we actually build this thing? It sounds amazing in theory, but practically, where does someone even start? I hear there's a set of core principles, often called core, that can give us a kind of roadmap.
CORE is an incredibly useful and effective framework, yeah. And it applies perfectly to managing your financial life. It stands for capture, organize, distill, and express. Let's break those down. Capture. This is step one, and it's critical. It needs to become almost second nature, immediate. Whenever you encounter any piece of potentially valuable financial information, maybe it's a note from a client meeting, a flash of a business idea, some market research you find online, an interesting article, or crucially, just your regular bills and bank statement, capture it immediately.
Don't just leave it in your email inbox or a pile on the desk.
Exactly. Get it out of the temporary holding zone and into your trusted system. Don't rely on your memory. Don't rely on piles. Use digital tools, things like Evernote, Notion, OneNote, Apple Notes, maybe Obsidian. Many of these have web clipper functions, which are amazing. You can save snippets of text, links, images, whole web pages, PDFs with just a click or two. It takes seconds. That act of capturing preserves the information permanently, syncs it across your devices. So if you get an email about a change to your insurance policy, clip it or forward it straight into your system. Have a financial thought while you're out. Dictate a quick voice note into your app. The goal is zero friction. Get it out of your head into the system fast. Next up is organize. Once information is captured, you need to give it some context. Group your financial notes and info by relevant themes or projects. Think of it like creating intelligent pathways, not just a massive digital junk drawer. This could mean organizing by specific financial projects you're actively working on, like save for car deposit, or by client accounts if that's relevant to you, or by broader strategic goals like retirement planning. This ensures that when you need that information later, it's readily available in the right context. It's not just about filing. It's about creating logical connections. So finding stuff later is quick and intuitive, reducing that mental search effort. Imagine planning a big purchase. All your research, quotes, budget notes are together in one digital place. The third step, and this is vital for keeping the system useful, is distill. This means regularly reviewing, refining, and updating the information you've stored. It also means actively pruning, removing things that are now outdated, irrelevant, or no longer useful.
So it doesn't just become a massive archive of everything.
Yep. Precisely. Distilling keeps your second brain relevant and potent. Without this step, it can easily turn into a digital graveyard, cluttered, overwhelming, and ultimately unhelpful. Think of it like tending a garden. You prune the dead branches so the healthy parts can thrive. Maybe once a year, you review your taxes area, move old returns to an archive, update notes on new tax rules. This active curation prevents information overload within your system itself. And finally, express. This is where it all comes together. The whole point of building this system is to translate that captured, organized, and distilled knowledge into action. Apply the insights. Use them to refine your business strategy, manage projects, review your financial performance, develop your personal budget with more clarity, and maybe even creativity. This is where the stored knowledge actually pays dividends, empowering you to make informed decisions and consistently push your financial goals and projects towards completion. For instance, if you've captured and distilled articles on index funds, you can now express that knowledge by confidently adjusting your investment portfolio. Or, if you've organized all your bill due dates, you express that by setting up an efficient payment schedule. Hashtag the PRA method for financial organization.
That Core framework provides a really clear process. Capture, organize, distill, express makes sense. Now, for anyone looking for a super concrete, practical system to organize not just finances, but maybe their entire digital life, I've heard a lot about the PARA method. It sounds simple but powerful. Stands for projects, areas, resources, archives.
Yes, the PRA method, developed by productivity expert Tiago Forte, is brilliant in its simplicity and flexibility. It's built on the idea that pretty much all the information you interact with can be slotted into just one of these four categories. And the simplicity is key. As Tiago often says something like, if your organizational system is as complex as your life, maintaining it will rob you of the time and energy needed to actually live your life. We want a system that frees up energy, not consumes it. So let's look at PRA through a financial lens. Projects. These are your short-term financial efforts. They have a specific defined goal and, crucially, a deadline or a clear finish line. Think of things like pay off credit card X by June, save $5K for house down payment by end of year, buy a new laptop next quarter, or plan and budget for summer holiday. All the notes, tasks, research documents directly related to achieving that specific finite goal go here. Loan statements for the card payoff, house listings for the down payment, laptop reviews, travel bookings, it all lives in the project folder. Once the project's done, it moves out. Areas. Now, in contrast to projects, areas are your long-term spheres of responsibility. Things you manage continuously over time, without a fixed end date. These are the ongoing pillars of your financial life. Examples would be folders like household finances, maybe with subfolders for utilities, mortgage, rent, grocery tracking, retirement planning, investments, taxes for your general strategy and ongoing record keeping, or insurance, holding all your policy details. These are the domains you manage consistently, year after year.
Got it. So projects are like sprints with a finish line, whereas areas are the ongoing marathons you run.
That's a perfect analogy, exactly. Then we have resources. This category is your personal library of potentially useful financial knowledge or topics of interest that aren't directly tied to an active project or a core area right now. This is where you'd save articles on behavioral finance concepts, index fund investing strategies, tips for negotiating salary, habit formation for saving money. It's stuff that interests you, educates you, might inspire future action, but isn't needed for a specific task today. And finally, archives. This is the resting place for everything that's no longer active. Completed projects go here, pay off credit card X moves here once it's done. Old, outdated information gets archived. Anything you don't need for current work but want to keep just in case. Think of it as your financial time capsule. Old tax returns from 7 years ago. Archive them. Notes from a savings goal you achieved last year. Archive. This keeps your active system, your projects, areas, and resources clean, focused, and uncluttered, which is essential for reducing overwhelm. It preserves your past journey without cluttering your present focus. The beauty is its simplicity. It should liberate your focus, not become another complex thing to manage. Hashtag practical steps to build your financial second brain.
That clarity between projects, areas, resources, and archives is incredibly helpful. And the emphasis on simplicity is really appealing. But let's be honest, often the biggest hurdle to starting any new system like this is staring at the mountain of existing digital stuff we already have. All those random files, old documents, downloads. Where do you even begin? It feels completely overwhelming.
Yeah, you've nailed the number one reason people give up before they even start. That feeling of being buried under the existing mess. Trying to sort through years of accumulated digital clutter into these new categories right away. That's a recipe for paralysis and frustration. So, my strongest recommendation, and this is something you can literally do in less than 60 seconds, is this. Start with a clean slate. Seriously, don't try to sort your old files now. Instead, create one single new folder on your computer or cloud drive. Call it something like Archive Today's Date, maybe Archive SIP 2025. Now, take all your existing digital financial files, every statement, every old spreadsheet, every saved article, every downloaded bill, and just drag and drop the whole lot into that single dated archive folder. Boom, done.
Just dump it all in one place and basically ignore it for now.
Exactly. This creates an immediate fresh start for your new PRA system without the stress of deleting anything potentially important. You know it's all safe in that time capsule if you desperately need to dig something out later, though you might be surprised how rarely you do.
Yeah.
That single action can feel incredibly liberating unless you focus on building the new system moving forward.
Okay, that sounds achievable. A massive weight lifted instantly. So once we have that clean starting point, what's the process for handling new information as it comes in day to day?
Right. Once you've got that clear space, you need a simple, consistent way to process new items. For any new piece of financial information that enters your world, maybe it's a receipt you snapped a photo of, an email confirmation, an article you clipped, a new bank statement download, a bill notification, process it using 3 straightforward questions. 1. What project is this useful for? Is it directly related to a specific short-term goal you're actively working on, like planned trip to Italy? 2. If not for a project, which area does it belong to? Is it part of an ongoing responsibility, like household finances or investment tracking? 3. If not for an area, which resource category does it fit? Is it general knowledge or reference material you might want later, like tax-saving tips or behavioral economics? If it doesn't clearly fit into any of those 3 active categories, then it probably doesn't need to clutter your main system. Either archive it straight away into a general archive, not the dated one you started with, or just delete it if it's genuinely not useful.
Do I need to do this the second something arrives?
Not necessarily. You don't have to interrupt your flow for every single item. Many people find it easier to let things accumulate in a digital inbox, maybe a specific folder, or just their downloads folder, and then process these items in batches. Perhaps set aside 15-20 minutes once a week, say Sunday evening, to quickly run through your inbox using those 3 questions. The key is consistency, not necessarily real-time processing. And don't overthink where things go. The search function in most digital tools is powerful. Just get it roughly in the right place. And the final crucial step, remember, this isn't a set-it-and-forget-it magic solution. Your financial second brain is a living system. It needs tending. You absolutely must schedule regular reviews. Weekly cleanups or quick reviews are essential to keep it organized, relevant, and genuinely useful. This isn't meant to be some rigid, burdensome chore. Think of it as light maintenance, like tidying your desk. Maybe during that weekly batch processing time, you also quickly glance at your active projects list. Are they still relevant? Any updates needed in your areas? This consistent, light-touch engagement keeps the system streamlined, trustworthy, and powerful over the long haul. #, choosing the right tools and technology.
That whole process, starting fresh, the 3 questions, batch processing, regular reviews, sounds way less daunting now, really practical. But then comes the next potential stumbling block, the tools. There are so many apps, software, cloud services. It can feel totally paralyzing just trying to pick the right ones. How do we avoid getting stuck in tool paralysis and choose tech that actually helps build this financial second brain without getting overwhelmed by features we don't need?
That's such a common and understandable challenge. The paradox of choice definitely applies here. The absolute key is to avoid overcomplication and analysis paralysis. Start simple. The best tool is genuinely the one you find easiest and most intuitive to use consistently. You can always evolve your tools later. Let's think about the core functions we need and some popular tool categories. For your central digital note-taking app, the place to capture thoughts, ideas, meeting notes, web clips, miscellaneous financial info, you've got great options. Things like Evernote, Microsoft OneNote, Notion, Apple Notes, or maybe Obsidian. Evernote, for example, is renowned for its powerful web clipper and search. Notion offers incredible flexibility if you like building custom databases and linked pages. Apple Notes is super simple and integrates seamlessly if you're in the Apple ecosystem. Obsidian is great if you like plain text files and linking ideas. The goal is one central, reliable place to dump and sort anything financial that crosses your path. Then, for cloud storage, this is non-negotiable for securely storing those sensitive, long-term financial documents you need to keep safe.
Think bank statements, tax returns, insurance policies, investment records, important receipts, wills, contracts.
Services like Google Drive, Dropbox, or Box are excellent choices here. They act as your secure digital filing cabinet. When choosing, look for robust security features. Multi-factor authentication is a must encryption, and maybe user access controls if you share any info.
And backups are crucial here too, right? Not just relying on the cloud.
Absolutely critical. Don't just rely on one cloud provider. Regularly back up these vital documents to at least one other location, maybe another cloud service, or better yet, a separate physical external hard drive that you store securely. Redundancy is key for protecting vital financial records from data loss, hacking, or service outages.
Okay, so a place for notes and ideas, a super secure place for official documents. What about the day-to-day money management, the budgeting and tracking?
All right, for personal finance management, PFM apps tools designed specifically for budgeting, tracking spending, monitoring accounts, and planning goals. There are many excellent options. YNA, you need a budget, is fantastic, especially for its proactive give every dollar a job philosophy, which really aligns with intentional financial management. Quick and Simplify offers a great overview across banking, credit cards, loans, and investments. NerdWallet and Wallet Hub provide lots of educational content alongside tools for tracking net worth and credit scores. Credit Karma is excellent for free credit score monitoring and understanding your credit profile. PocketSmith is powerful for cash flow forecasting. Many of these can link directly to your bank accounts to automate transaction tracking. And one more category. Don't overlook visual tools. Sometimes, seeing the connections is easier than reading lists. Mind mapping software, which is sometimes built into project management tools like ClickUp or available as standalone apps, can be really helpful. You can use them to visually map out your financial goals, break down complex projects, visualize debt repayment strategies, or even just brainstorm ideas. It taps into a different way of thinking. My core advice on tools remains: don't get bogged down trying to find the perfect setup from day one. Pick one or two tools that seem easy to use for you, fit reasonably well with how you already work, and feel sustainable long-term. Start simple. Use Apple Notes and Google Drive if that's easiest. You can always change or add tools later as your needs evolve and you get clearer on what you want. The system, POAE, Core RE, matters more than the specific app. Make the tool serve you, not the other way around.
Okay, this is brilliant. We've talked about why our brains sometimes struggle with money, the fascinating science of behavioral finance behind it, and now we have a really practical framework, COCORI and PRA Plus, ideas for tools to start building this powerful financial second brain. But let's take it a step further. How do we move beyond just being organized to truly mastering our money? How does the system help us achieve genuine financial freedom and peace of mind? This feels like where the real magic happens, and I think you said it starts with one absolutely crucial action.
You're absolutely right. This is where the second brain transitions from being an organizational tool to being a strategic ally in achieving mastery. And yes, the cornerstone, the absolute first and most impactful rule for leveraging this system for financial freedom is automation. Automate absolutely everything you possibly can. This isn't just about convenience. I genuinely believe it's an act of profound self-care for your future self. Set up automatic payments for all your recurring bills, rent or mortgage, utilities, council tax, loans, credit cards, at least the minimum payment, ideally the full statement balance, insurance premiums. Schedule them a few days before the due date, and just as importantly, set up automatic transfers to your savings and investment accounts. Decide how much you want to save or invest each month, and have it automatically moved out of your main account the day you get paid. Make the decision once, then let the system execute it flawlessly every single time.
So we're essentially pre-committing our future selves, taking the daily willpower and decision-making out of the equation for these essential financial actions.
Precisely. This strategy delivers two massive psychological benefits. First, it drastically reduces decision fatigue related to routine finances. You free up so much mental RAM by not having to constantly remember due dates, log into multiple portals, and manually initiate payments or transfers. Second, and perhaps even more powerfully, it serves as a potent antidote to the planning fallacy, our very human tendency to underestimate how long things will take or simply to procrastinate on tasks, especially slightly unpleasant ones like paying bills or the pain of saving. With automation, you bypass procrastination entirely. Your system remembers and acts for you. This creates a reliable, consistent financial rhythm that shields you from your own forgetfulness, inertia, and behavioral biases. It basically puts your core financial goals on autopilot, removing all the friction from doing the right thing consistently. Hashtag budgeting with intention, applying YNAB philosophy. Okay, so once you've got that bedrock of automation handling the essentials reliably in the background, your financial second brain becomes the perfect platform for truly intentional budgeting. And I think connecting this to the philosophy behind YNAB, you need a budget, is incredibly insightful here. YNAB isn't just software, It's a way of thinking about money that's deeply psychological and, frankly, liberating. It turns budgeting from a restrictive chore into a powerful tool for achieving what you want in life. Let's look at its core tenets. First, and this is huge, identify your top priority for your money. Before you budget a single pound, ask yourself the deep question: what do I ultimately want my money to do for me? What's its purpose? Is it growth, supporting family, achieving freedom, funding a passion project, security, a comfortable retirement, lifelong learning? Nailing this why provides the motivation behind every single financial choice. It makes budgeting meaningful, not just bean counting. Next, give every dollar or pound a job. This isn't about forecasting income you don't have yet. It's about taking the money you currently have and assigning every single unit of it a specific role. As money comes in, you consciously decide, this bit is for rent, this covers groceries, this goes to the car payment, this chunk builds the emergency fund, this part funds the new sofa goal. You become the CEO of your money, directing every resource purposefully. This replaces vague hopes and anxieties with clear, intentional action. Guilt fades, purpose grows. Then, you must embrace your true expenses. This is a game changer. So many budgets get derailed by those infrequent but totally predictable expenses: the annual car insurance, MOTs, boiler service, maybe replacing your laptop every few years, Christmas gifts, birthday presents. Wynavy calls these true expenses. Instead of letting them sneak up and blow up your budget, you create specific savings categories for them and fund them incrementally month by month. So instead of a sudden 600-pound car insurance bill causing panic, you've automatically saved 50 pounds a month into your car insurance fund all year. It transforms surprises into planned events.
That's brilliant. Smoothing out those lumpy expenses makes so much sense. It removes the shock factor.
Completely changes the game. And that leads to the next principle: roll with the punches. Life happens, things change, priorities shift, unexpected costs pop up. Your budget needs to be flexible, not a rigid prison sentence. If you overspend in, say, eating out one month, it's not a catastrophe. You simply adapt. You look at your other categories and decide where to move money from maybe a lower priority savings goal, get slightly less this month to cover the overspending. As the YNAB folks wisely say, there is no such thing as a failure, only a reprioritization. You're not bad for going over. You're learning about your real spending patterns and adjusting your plan accordingly. It's dynamic. Crucially, you should aim to age your money. This is a powerful concept. It means actively working to increase the time between when you earn money and when you spend it. You build a buffer. Instead of living right on the edge, paycheck to paycheck, the goal is to eventually be spending money today that you actually earned 30, 60, even 90 or more days ago. This buffer gives you incredible breathing room. It helps you effortlessly ride out small fluctuations in income or unexpected expenses without stress. It significantly reduces financial anxiety. And finally, engage consistently. Budgeting isn't a one-time setup. It's an ongoing conversation with your money. Whenever money comes in, you engage with your plan, assign those pounds to their jobs. When you spend, you record it, or let your linked accounts track it, and see how it affects your category balances. This regular conscious engagement keeps you in control and ensures your spending aligns with your priorities and the payoff. Once your core needs, true expenses, and savings goals are funded, you can spend the rest guilt-free on whatever you want. That's real financial freedom.
That idea of rolling with the punches and seeing overspending as just a signal, not a personal failure, that feels revolutionary for budgeting. It takes the judgment out of it. But that raises a really important point. How do we let go of that harsh self-criticism that so often goes hand in hand with trying to manage money or stick to goals? So many people feel like they've failed if the plan isn't perfect.
Oh, that is absolutely fundamental, and it's probably the biggest psychological barrier for many people. It requires consciously letting go of perfectionism and those often unrealistic, rigid expectations we set for ourselves. Framing going over budget as simply a signal from your past self about your actual needs or changing circumstances, rather than as evidence of some deep character flaw or moral failing, is utterly transformative. Self-punishment, beating yourself up mentally, it actively hinders growth and learning. It creates stress, avoidance, and a negative feedback loop. It's like trying to learn a new skill while constantly yelling at yourself for every tiny mistake. It doesn't work. You wouldn't berate a friend who is struggling to learn something new, would you? You'd offer encouragement, support, suggest trying a different approach. We need to extend that same kindness and understanding to ourselves. Forgiveness and self-support are the keys to actually changing financial habits long-term. Your financial second brain helps here too. By laying out the objective facts, here's what was planned, here's what was actually spent without judgment, it helps you see the reality clearly. This allows for honest assessment. Okay, eating out costs more than planned, maybe I need to adjust that category or find savings elsewhere. And adaptive planning, rather than falling into a spiral of judgment, denial, and eventually giving up. This is where personal growth and sustainable financial improvement really intersect. It's about building a supportive system, being kind to your inherently fallible human self, and iterating towards your goals.
This really does feel like so much more than just, neatly organized folders or paying bills on time. When you describe it like that, having a well-built financial second brain, it might make someone look like they have an incredible memory for financial details. But really, as we've discussed, it's just a reliable external system doing the heavy lifting for them, working quietly in the background. It sounds less about control in a rigid sense and more about achieving a sense of freedom.
It's exactly right. The system moves far beyond mere organization. It becomes a platform for insight. Connections start to emerge organically from the information you've gathered and organized. You start seeing patterns in your spending you never noticed before. You spot opportunities you might have missed. This leads to more consistent progress on your goals, maybe even enhanced creativity in your financial planning or business ideas. You stop feeling like you need to lock yourself away for hours to figure out finances because the information is already there, simmering in your second brain, ready for you to engage with when you have the time and energy. Imagine effortlessly pulling up all your notes and research on ethical investing right before you make a portfolio adjustment, or instantly recalling your spending patterns from the last 6 months when planning this year's holiday budget. That capability frees up enormous mental bandwidth that was previously consumed by searching, worrying, and trying to remember details. Ultimately, your financial second brain becomes a living reflection of your financial identity, your values, your goals. It maps out the underlying structure of your financial life as you want it to be. Every financial experience, whether it feels like a win or a setback, becomes a learning opportunity because you have a system to capture the lesson, organize the data, and utilize the insight moving forward. This fosters a profound sense of empowerment. It enables you to achieve not just financial stability, but genuine financial freedom, and perhaps the most valuable prize of all, a lasting sense of inner peace regarding your money. It's about consciously designing a life where your finances support your deepest values and aspirations, rather than being a constant source of stress and anxiety. #outro.
We have covered such a huge amount of ground today on the deep dive. Really fascinating stuff. We've unpacked why our amazing brains, well, they aren't perfectly wired for the complexities of modern money. We explored how behavioral finance shines a light on why we sometimes struggle, revealing those systematic biases we all share. And most importantly, we've laid out a really powerful, practical path forward. How building your own financial second brain offers an intentional, systematic journey towards clarity, towards control, and ultimately towards liberation from financial chaos. And just to reiterate, this isn't about creating some rigid, joyless system of control. It's truly about freeing up your mind, your energy, your focus for the things in life that genuinely matter to you.
Absolutely. And if we just connect this to the bigger picture for a moment, the goal is for you to finish listening today feeling clearer, feeling motivated, and feeling certain that financial psychology offers real, practical, accessible solutions for everyone. It's not some arcane science. It's really about understanding yourself, better understand your inherent human tendencies so you can then build systems and make choices that genuinely align with your long-term well-being and your deepest hopes for your life.
We sincerely hope this deep dive has resonated with you today. Your experiences, your journey with money, it all matters, and we really want to hear from you. Please jump into the comments section for this deep dive. Share your thoughts. Tell us maybe which financial habit you feel ready to change after listening today and why. Or if you've already started building your own version of a financial second brain, maybe you have a specific trick, a tool you love, or a success story, a triumph. Please share it with us and the community. Your story could be the spark that helps someone else feel less alone, feel understood, and feel motivated to take that crucial first step.
And perhaps a final thought to leave you with as you reflect on all this. Remember, money, at the end of the day, is just a tool. It's resources. It has no inherent power or meaning beyond what we give it. The real work and the real reward isn't just accumulating more pounds or dollars. It's the peace of mind, the confidence, the freedom that comes from mastering yourself, your psychology, your habits, and by doing that, finally mastering your finances.